We are live.
Good evening and welcome to everyone joining in. We are extremely glad that all of you could join us for the July edition of TECHRx series, Accelerating MedTech Innovation, where we bring to the forefront MedTech innovations all across India. TechRx is a collaboration between Inc. and Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone. We are delighted to have you to bring you this edition that marks a year of TechRx shows and hope that you will take away some valuable insights from the conversation today as well. Inc., with its decade-long legacy, is a pioneer in accelerating the journeys of game changers all across the world. AMTZ focuses on a progressive initiative by being a center for medical technology, employment, innovative research, and incubation of startups. Together, Inc. and AMTZ have collaborated to create a dialogue between scientific and social segments of the society with an innovative series titled TechRx. Today's session will be a total of 60 minutes with the last 20 minutes open for live Q&A discussion. So type in your questions on the YouTube comment box with your name and the panelists will address them during the Q&A at the end. Before I introduce our interviewer and guest for today, can we please play the AMTZ video for our audience? With that, I'd like to call upon Lakshmi Prathuri. Lakshmi is the founder and CEO of Inc. and the host and curator of live events and inktalks.com. Lakshmi is an entrepreneur, curator, speaker, and empowering storyteller. She is the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including being named as Inspirational Icon at the Audi Ritz Awards in 2015 and being included in Forbes magazine 2010 list of women to watch in Asia. She has written for leading publications like Your Story, Fortune, Deccan Chronicle, and has been featured in many others as well. She has been growing as an inspirational thought leader on LinkedIn and has leading growth as a content creator through digital shows like COVID Lockdown Live Series and Lakshmi's Leadership Lounge. Please welcome Lakshmi Praturi, CEO of Inc. Lakshmi, may I please request you to start your video and audio?
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be back with all of you. And the best part of the day for me is when I get to present some of the most inspiring people we get to meet. And today I have the honor of introducing Nitesh Jangir. He's an electronics engineer. But what's very interesting about Nitesh is what he has done with his degree. He said that he always wanted to be a doctor, and he became an engineer. But he didn't forget his passion. So he's an engineer with a focus on embedded system design, with an experience that includes working at defense, industrial automation, medical devices, etc. He's the co-founder of Coeo Labs, a medical device company with a vision to prevent preventable deaths in the field of emergency and critical care. He was also part of Stanford India Biodesign program, where he developed and commercialized a device to safely tap pleural fluid in patients with pleural effusion. Now, this technology, which is called ThoraShield, it was licensed out to a medical device manufacturing company. Nitesh is an active inventor and has filed and been granted 6 patents in field of medical devices and in artificial intelligence. He's the winner of Commonwealth Innovation Award, Forbes 30 Under 30, Acumen India Fellow, a Leaders in Innovation Fellow, Royal Academy of Engineers of UK, and most importantly for me, he's also an Inc. Fellow. With that, I would like to have Nitesh join us.
Thank you, Lakshmi, for inviting me here. It's a really honor to talk to you all the time.
Yeah, and Nitesh, I just want to say that it's very appropriate that we are featuring you at the MedTech zone, because that's really what you do. And I just wanted you to share with us a little bit about how you got into this, because we've talked about in the past about how you wanted to be a doctor, and then after becoming an engineer, you still pursued that, and you and your co-founder actually came up with the devices that you came up with by doing something very interesting about just going and sitting in emergency care and watching people. So tell us about a little bit about the beginning of what you have done, etc. But first, I just wanted you to say that a little bit and then get into your presentation. And then we'll come back and ask questions so people have a background of where you're coming from. And then I'll let you take the floor away and give your presentation.
Thank you, Lakshmi. So as I've told you this before, around, I think now 3 years back, when we met first time. It's I come from a very small village in state of Rajasthan. And in my village, even today, there is no hospital. And I'm talking about not even a primary healthcare center, or not even a sub center. So no doctor is around. So to get any medical care, we have to travel 20 kilometers, and to get any important or serious medical care or critical care, we have to go to Jaipur all the time, which is around 180 kilometers. So during that time, I've seen many of my family members, people around me losing their life because they were not getting medical treatment on time. And at the same time, to me, that I was really good at sciences, both like all kinds of sciences, physics, chemistry, maths, bio. And my grandfather, who was the sarpanch of my village, he was always that, why don't you become a doctor? And even I was interested in biology. And So I wanted to become doctor, but I wasn't intelligent enough to get into a good med school. Uh, and then when I'm being good at physics, I got into a good engineering school. During that time, especially one of my teachers in my school inspired me. He actually taught us biology using physics, and his concepts were that how body is another manifestation of the nature, and the all the law which are applied in normal nature gets applied in the human body, and that's where the and being an electronics engineer, for me it was even more visible when I can see how when I think I assume I'm thinking, and but actually these electrical signals which are flowing through our brain, going towards hands, going and instructing my other cells what to do. And that's where my whole interest in combining all these engineering interest, understanding of engineering into the biological sciences, and then solve real problem. But my real training on doing this or understanding how to invent these medical devices and doing something about this.
I think we have a problem with Nitesh. Are you back? Okay.
Yeah. So sorry. So I was saying. So when it turned from hobby to serious thing, when I got my training at Stanford India Design Program, where senior people, even Dr. Sharma, people like Dr. Sharma, and everyone gave lecture and told us how to invent these medical devices devices properly, and how to take them to the patients, and ultimately how to design not just devices but the overall experience and service to make sure that people are using these and patients gets benefited. And then after my whole training, I started Coeo Labs. Right, we are a Bangalore-based company. As Lakshmi already told, we had designed devices specifically in field of emergency and critical care, which became really popular due to COVID. So now we have a lot of products which are helping people in COVID.
So with that, I mean, the only thing I want to say is that the beginning of all this is Nitesh and his co-founder went and sat in emergency care rooms and just watched what the problems were. And based on that, based on what they saw, they designed the product. So that's the background of it. With that, Nitesh, why don't you go ahead, share your presentation, and then we'll come back for more Q&A. Nitesh, I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
With network. Lakshmi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Screen sharing again.
Sorry about this, everyone. Nitesh is in a far off location, and he's logging in. So we're having a little bit of internet problem. Just give a minute, he'll be there.
Lakshmi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. I can see the presentation also. Go ahead.
Perfect. So sorry for there's some network issue I'm facing here. As Lakshmi told, when me and Nachiket, we were spending time in hospital doing something we call unmet clinical need analysis by observing what are the things which were going wrong and why what was the reason why patients were losing their lives. So we were following something we call negative outcomes. For example, a patient who have diabetes and which diabetes led to ulcer in patient's leg, and ultimately doctors have to cut the leg. Then we analyze this whole path, that why they have to cut the leg, where it could have been prevented, or through what solution we could solve this problem. So similarly, when we were looking at problems, we saw a 30-year-old male getting into the ICU in the hospital with an head injury. When patient was there with a head injury, doctors have to put this patient on ventilator. Once they put this patient on ventilator, this patient was supposed to be out of the ventilator within 2 days. But even after when we went to the ICU, after around 6 days, this patient was still on ventilator. When we discussed with doctors, they said that this patient is on ventilator because they acquired a secondary pneumonia or secondary infection, which happens in patients who are on ventilator. This infection called ventilator-associated pneumonia. It happens because patients who are on ventilator, they have a tube going inside their throat. What this tube does, this tube disables the functions of esophagus, and because this tube is there in the patient's throat, doctors also give a lot of sedation to this patient. And ultimately, this whole situation leads into something we call aspiration of saliva. We generate close to 2 liters of saliva every day, but all of that we swallow. These patients who are on ventilator, they cannot swallow it. And when this infected saliva or secretion reaches to the patient's lung, it infects infects them. And ultimately, if patient gets double pneumonia, and they have really high chances of deaths due to the secondary infection. So in India alone, we lose close to 600,000 patients every year due to this infection. And it's not just a problem in India; it's a global issue. Even in US, they have almost around 150,000 patients who acquire this pneumonia every year. When we looked at this problem and when we talked to the doctors more, we got more and more feedback that this is a drug problem. That for this is a pneumonia can be solved through antibiotics. But then more we got into this, it looks like a mechanical problem where liquid flowing through mouth, which was supposed to go through the stomach area, but going inside the throat and reaching to the lungs. Idea was that how can we stop this liquid reaching to the lung? So the current procedure to stop this liquid reach to the lung is by a nurse or a doctor take a tubing, we call it suction catheter, and try to remove all the saliva and secretion. But it is mostly dependent on how trained that nurse is, and also it depends upon what kind of access nurse have or visual access nurse has on the patient's mouth. And removing the saliva and secretion, especially during, it was a big issue before COVID, and after COVID, it has become like really big issue, because open suctioning, even WHO has told or mentioned that can lead to secondary or lead to the cross infection to the caregiver itself. Yeah. To solve this problem, we have developed this device. We call it VAPCare.
VAPCare is the first system of its kind. With intelligent secretion and oral hygiene management, it provides targeted suctioning of secretions, standard endotracheal tube or till the sensor box detects an absence of secretions, thereby minimizing.
So as you can see on the screen, VAPCare is a device which has automated the process of a whole and oral hygiene management in patients who are on ventilator. So it has two parts. One is a disposable part which goes inside the patient's throat, and then there are sensors and electronics outside. This machine, which we have, senses the presence and absence of these secretions and automatically removes them, make sure that none of these secretion reaches to the lungs and infect them. At the same time, this machine also pushes antibacterial, or during COVID time, it is pushing antiviral liquid inside the patient's mouth. It rinses the whole oral cavity and takes the fluid out to make sure that even after removing all the fluid which this machine can remove, some amount of secretions are going towards the lung. These do not have those harmful bacteria and viruses. Yeah. So this is physically, this is how this product looks. This product has already got US FDA and European regulatory approval. We are marketing or selling this product in India. We have done 2 clinical trials, and the third one, a big RCT, is in progress. And actually, just to because it's near AMTZ in Andhra Pradesh, we have multiple installations of this device with government hospitals. And then this device we have deployed across India, collecting more data on its efficacy, and we are publishing more data to make this product as a standard of care. Our vision towards this is that there should not be no ICU with a ventilator which does not have this product, and nurses should not even ultimately get taught on how to do this suctioning. This machine should be able to take care of all these secretions and oral hygiene practices, not just in India, across the globe. Our second solution, which is my really favorite, and this is the solution which is really close to our heart, because the solution is all about babies. So when I was spending time in the hospital during night, I still remember around 2 o'clock, a newborn got inside the hospital with a tube inside the throat, and this newborn required immediate breathing support. But due to the transportation not having adequate breathing support at first point of care, this baby didn't survive. Even doctors they tried almost for 8 hours to make sure whatever they have used, but ultimately this baby didn't survive. And that's where the physicians over there told us that if there was a way to provide basic breathing support like CPAP in a first point of care itself where this baby was born, most of these baby could have easily survived. When we looked at the national data, we found almost around 400,000 babies in India required this kind of serious breathing support, and almost around 162,000 of them died due to this condition called respiratory distress, and ultimately 32% of these patients died during the transportation itself. So in low resource settings, in settings where they don't have neonatal ICUs, these babies don't even get a chance for survival, because they don't get immediate access to the essential breathing support. All existing solutions were actually designed by multinational companies for their own settings. So companies in US, in New Zealand, they design for their own settings, where all high-risk pregnancies or high-risk delivery were managed by doctors in neonatal ICUs. So immediate access to all the resources and infrastructure was available. So existing solutions require compressed gas, compressed oxygen, continuous monitoring. These are expensive, cannot be used in transport. So something which is not at all suitable for our condition. Right now, I am in Manipur, and I know where some of these devices are installed by these international companies, and doctors are saying they are unable to use them because of multiple constraints like these. So when we look at this problem, we create this solution. We call this device Saans, which is world's only neonatal CPAP machine, which can work in any kind of adverse situation. So that includes in hospital, in an ICU, outside hospital, in ambulances, even in auto rickshaws, even on bike. So idea is that there should not be any condition where this device doesn't work or cannot provide breathing support to the patient. The way we designed this device, it is designed actually for non-clinical clinical user. So it's really easy to use device. I can train anyone within 5 minutes on how to operate this device properly, and and at the cost wise also, it's half of the cost of any other existing solution in this space. So SARS, I'm happy to tell you, more than 5,000 babies have been saved using this device. We have more than 100 installations across India, and soon we will be having. We are hoping to get into more than 1,000 installations in the next couple of months for that device. We also got into African market with that product. We have got funding from World Bank to do pilot in Ethiopia. But what is really interesting happened with us in last 1 year, because we were working in overall respiratory space from last 4 years. We got really understanding of overall human physiology, and also on the technology side, that what can really solve this problem. When COVID hit, we actually created Saans as a platform. So we upgraded our device to provide non-invasive breathing support to COVID patients who are adults. We developed an interface which is like a helmet, which you can see in picture on this mannequin, to again enable a very comfortable non-invasive breathing support to COVID patients. And now we have upgraded our Saans device to even work not just with the CPAP therapy, but CPAP and high flow therapies for both pediatric as well as neonatal population. So now it has scaled up to become a full platform for respiratory care, which is designed for India, for Indian settings, by Indian engineers, by Indian doctors, to make sure that these devices can work in all of our setting. And I'm happy to tell you the adult version of this device. Now we have 650 installations across India, and more than 10,000 patients have been provided essential breathing support using this device. So here at AMTZ, and Dr. Sharma and the whole team who have also helped us a lot during our this journey, is that we all have, and in COVID we have seen how essential these medical devices are, and what kind of dependency we are having, especially for the critical care devices outside India. That when we need these products in bulk, we don't have many options. So idea is that can we all come together, all doctors, engineers, service personnel, even the public health professionals, non-profits, to make sure that we make really customized or devices designed for India, which works perfectly and saves lives which are into ICUs and critical care, and ensure nobody in this country would die because they don't have access to very basic medical devices. Thank you.
Nitesh, thank you so much for your presentation. So I just wanted to ask you, which is on everybody's mind today, is about COVID, right? So tell me a little bit about what has been your experience during COVID, and what have you guys been able to do to help the situation in any way? Because you've also been certified by WHO to be able to use these machines across the globe, etc. So share with us a little bit about your experience through COVID and what have you learned using these machines?
Yeah, Lakshmi, I think COVID time has been very critical, or was critical time for us, because being in the same space of respiratory care, COVID is a respiratory infection which affects lung directly, and there was a huge demand for ventilators in India. When we went to critical care physicians, and there are very few in India. Actually, this is a bigger problem right now. As a country, we are facing that we don't have critical care physicians. So we went to them, all of them, and everybody was talking about getting ventilators. And here, doctors gave us bigger insight. They said, don't work on ventilators. Those are complex devices, would require a lot of not more than regulatory, require a lot of testing, require a lot of certification. And till the time you will be ready, it would be really late. They advised us, why don't you make simple non-invasive ventilation machine? And because we already had a lot of experience in doing this for neonates, we were able to upgrade our device, with neonatal device, to adult non-invasive ventilation system. Because one interesting thing, doctor said that even I have 1,000 ventilators, I don't have 100 people who can use them. Because when to learn how to use these complex machines, doctor said I have to get my degree or get trained for 3 years to learn how to use ventilators properly. And he gave me data that patients who are on ventilator, 80% of them are losing their life. So using these non-invasive ventilation machine, they motivated us that if we can make these, many of these patients won't go to ventilator, and they can treat them with drugs and all other methods to reduce their viral load and get them out of critical space. So with the new products which we developed was Saans Pro, and then as I told you, we have now 650 of these Saans Pro devices installed across India, and we have been able to help doctors treat almost around 10,000 patients using this device. And along with it, again, when we design more solution, the more problem comes. The non-invasive ventilation, when we got into, the bigger problem was the interface, which was masked. I remember a physician describing me to this, saying, assume when the gas comes into that mask, assume Muhammad Ali is punching you. It's that much uncomfortable. Every time you get that punch. So that's where, again, doctors only said with us, we collaboratively designed a helmet interface, which covers the whole patient's face itself. And then it's very easy, doesn't put any pressure on the patient's face, patient's neck. And then patient still get the overall high flow and CPAP therapies through this interface. So that was our another innovation. Now we are getting ready for third wave, where everybody's saying pediatric as well as neonatal population would be most impacted. And we are seeing similar, these things are happening in in Indonesia, where one in 8 COVID infected person is a pediatric. So we have built this new device where we can do both neonatal and pediatric non-invasive ventilation, and be ready before this whole third wave will start impacting the whole country. So I'm right now traveling to multiple states, talking to governments. I was yesterday in Assam. Today I'm in Manipur to make sure that these solutions are there in place when we need them.
So, as you're expanding this, what is the one thing you wish could happen? I mean, there's a lot about innovation in what you're doing, right? I mean, there is a lot of different people. You have, engineers and doctors and social scientists and all sorts of people that you work with to have this product out that actually is serving a purpose. So especially in India right now, in the midst of COVID, you have a product that's obviously of use to people. So what is stopping you from serving everyone you could serve, from a manufacturing, or is it funding, or what is the one thing you wish you could have so that you can do more of what you're doing?
This is a really good question. The biggest issue I can say is having not having this ecosystem is still big enough where so because I can manufacture, we can take care of AMTZ, we can manufacture any number of devices, but ensuring that they get used, having a big service team, big support team, which will go inside the hospitals, having people who are ready to go inside the COVID wards. That itself is a big issue. So having good manpower is a big problem. And another issue which we really face is more about having access to correct information, specifically with government orders. That many times we don't even know that some tender has come, some information, and then so having access to that that is also a big problem faced, we have faced in past. And another big issue we have faced is not having really strong regulatory in India. Actually, unlike all other people think, as a medical device entrepreneur or being in this field, we actually want these regulations there. So they define the clear.
We're having a little bit of a problem. I really admire what Nitesh does, because in the midst of all this, they're traveling everywhere. So he's calling from Manipur. I think that's why there's a little bit of issue. Go ahead, Nitesh. You were saying you, as an innovator, you would like regulations, and there aren't enough regulations. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so actually having regulation is good. Regulations guide us that what kind of testing needs to be done, what is the safety criteria, what is the efficacy criteria, and then another big issue being in Indian companies. Almost all hospitals, even in government tenders, they ask for international regulations to be there, and these are really expensive for a startup to spend 40-50 lakhs. And more than expensive during COVID time, and this time you can't get them. It takes years to get European regulatory or US FDA regulatory approval. So when and many times they just kick us out because we don't have that. We have Indian regulatory done. We got all the testing done. But so that's another big challenge we have faced. So if I summarize, it would be largely having good quality manpower who understand that being biomedical, or being that we are not less than physicians, and it's our responsibility also to get inside the COVID ICU, help them. So that's one big issue. The second would be about having less regulatory, and again dependence on the regulatory segment, or even in tender on the international devices. Because even when we say my product is better than, in terms of not just technology, but overall solution is better than those international products, but those products are imbibed into the system so much the tenders come exactly to their specs, even if those specs are such that, for example, in Rajasthan, a tender I seen in Rajasthan, they are saying the device would work at 25 degrees centigrade. Like Rajasthan in 25 degree, I'm from Rajasthan. I know for going 45 degree in Rajasthan is an easy thing. When during summer, so we also need to create a lot of awareness about our innovation, and that's why having more data, the more trials getting published, the more awareness from events like this. Even AMTZ has helped us to create some reports, and by analyzing some of our products, they helped us in doing something we call health technology assessment. So doing this, making sure that our all physicians, all stakeholders know about this Indian innovation. That's also really important task, which I think platform like in AMTZ would definitely help a startup like us.
I would like to open it up for questions from the audience, and I just want to summarize by saying that one of the things that really impresses me, Nitesh, is where you have come from and how you have not just taken yourself out of the small village and educated yourself, but really you're bringing very, very different disciplines together to continuously innovate. And now you're traveling all across India. And I want to underscore the importance of what AMTZ is doing and what you're doing is that we need to create products that work in India for India also, because the environment is different, the usage is different, and when the temperature is different. So I think that's one of the things that you're doing that's really good, is it's a product that's tested and can be used for Indian conditions. We talked about sometimes when there's a machine and you're in an auto and there's all these jerks and stuff like that, the machine should be able to withstand that. So you have to think of things like this when you're designing. So I really want to congratulate you for keeping all those things in mind when you design something. So I'd like to open it up to audience. Does anyone have any questions? Rohan, did we receive anything for questions?
Yeah. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, go ahead. Just ask. And meanwhile, maybe people in the audience, you can come up and ask questions. Once you come to the stage or the mic, we know you want to ask a question in the auditorium. Meanwhile, Rohan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm also pasting it on the chat window. So the question comes from YouTube, which is, Coeo Labs has raised close to 1 million in funding through grants and equity from the Department of Biotechnology and INACSIL. So what are some of the lessons you can share with startups and innovators applying for some of these grants or investments that they might be looking for?
So this is actually, there has to be two different strategies about the grants and the investment. So for grants, actually, when you read the proposal, you will know that whether your project fits in or not. So one thing we did that, and we were not applying for any random grants. We were applying to grants only which are very specific to our the work which we were doing. And then we had really good hit rate, almost around 50% hit rate on our grant, which most of the grant guys who are expert in writing grants says it was really good. But our strategy was this, that we'll apply only to grants which are very specific to us, what we are doing. And grants document itself will guide you that what information needs to be provided, what information doesn't need to be provided. And in Bionac being such a big help for overall Indian ecosystem specifically for healthcare innovation, either it is in biotech side or it is into the medical side. We actually started from their first grant and when from the big, and then when we started showing the more and more results, when they started, Bionac was seeing that we were successfully completing our milestones, successfully delivering what we promised on each grant, and that too on time. So when they started seeing more and more of this, we were started getting into the next stage. And same thing for the private funding. We were lucky enough to get INACSIL in early on itself. So even before we get grants, we had the private funding. So having this combination of both grants and private funding really worked well. Really worked well for us. And that too, these days we have many investors who are really keen in investing in in medical devices segment, and there are many incubators. Like even AMTZ has access to funding, but there are incubators like Social Alpha. There are multiple incubator. I know one at Dayanand Sagar in Bangalore called Derby Incubators, where they specifically provide private capital or initial seed funding to starters working in medical devices segment. One thing I have realized from my senior from biodesign program is not relying completely on grants, because then it takes years and years to get those products out, because grant money never comes on time. Because there are processes, it comes from different approvals. So you and your employees and people whom with you are working, you have to pay them on time. So for that, grants can work as a buffer, but never be dependent on grants alone.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience at AMTZ?
There's one more question on YouTube, which I'll just post it on the chat box again. It says India's ecosystem has produced 27 unicorns, but none are in the deep tech domain. So is the country losing out, and what are the challenges in doing so?
Yeah, I think that depends upon the definition of deep tech. Actually, deep tech software companies are, I think in next few months we'll see some of them reaching to the unicorn status. Uh, if your question is more towards deep, hardcore medical devices or pharma, again, we have a lot of examples. So where they have reached to, means they are not even startups anymore. There has been IPOs, but in medical devices industry, I think we have to wait still for next 5-6 years to reach to that stage. And one of the reasons behind it is our Indian market is not that big. For most of those devices, you will find we don't have $1 billion market here. And so if we have to go out of India, we have to get into European, US, or other developed market to increase increase the value of our assets, and then only there will be deep tech or medical devices company which would be leading to the unicorn stage. And we are also trying to get to US and European market, and ultimately idea is to serve customers over there who have higher paying capacity, which increases your revenue and ultimately increases your valuation, and hopefully someday we would reach to that unicorn status.
All right, thank you.
Nitesh, maybe you can talk a little bit about what can India do? What would you like to see some things happen here so people from very, very different disciplines can come together and continue to create more innovative companies? We need more incubators, we need more investment, we need more mentors, we need practical knowledge, or what are the things that need to happen so that more innovative companies can come out of India, especially in the medical device space?
Yeah, I mean, even I thought, during my journey, this answer to this question has changed all the time. But now, being at this stage, I would say at policy level, we should, or not just policy, it should be implemented on the purchase end, that this percentage of devices should be purchased only from Indian medical devices. When we see market update, as last question was, when we see companies growing up, when we see more examples, all ecosystem would automatically would come together. When you have been into this segment, we are looking at a startup, and this is what actually happened to IT companies. When there are more software companies which were started growing, people started learning about them, more interest got into that. Now all kind of engineers want to become software engineers because of the economical opportunity they have there. Similarly, if we have people seeing more and more success, companies with more success in this market, I think everything will come together automatically. Just like I don't want to take this example, but recently we are trying to enter into China now because we have got patents in China, and so there they have this rule that if there's an international product coming in, either it has to become a Chinese product or Chinized in their method, or if it is international product coming directly from there, there are really high taxes on that product, and even the buyers are get penalized. So government won't pay to you if you are using those products. If somebody wants to use Medtronic stand, they have to pay on there. Public money will not get spent on that money. So it's more about encouraging using local products, local innovation. And once we start having the high, as I told you, once we have good regulation in place, doctors have trust in local Indian products, this purchase will start. Overall ecosystem would come in the picture, and places like AMTZ are anyhow already coming in. AMTZ is really good example of the whole ecosystem at one place. But now we have to make sure that all purchases happen, all sales happen. So that's the next thing which at a country level we have to do.
Yeah, and one of the other things is that in general, when you look at India, the innovation that's happening there, all the things that are happening here, etc. What do you think is the future of healthcare in the next few years in India? Do you see government taking more active role? Do you see companies coming together? Or what do you see is the future of healthcare in the next 5 years in India?
Yeah, so if on the equipment segment, I'm seeing now governments are becoming more active. We would definitely have regulations for all devices coming up in the next 2 years. So looks like government is really serious on this. They understood this problem, especially during COVID and even before COVID. That's why they set up places like AMTZ and there are other medical devices park. Now it's also more up to us in innovators to get these devices to the hospital. We are seeing many devices which are actually reaching and having good reception. So we are seeing more and more Indianization especially in the diagnostic industry. It has happened a lot. COVID now, most of the diagnostic kits are produced in India. So this whole Indianization now we are seeing it happening rapidly, and in next 4 to 5 years, our dependence on the import would reduce drastically, and we would definitely have at least 10-15 startups which are selling their products a lot out of India. So it's not just India. It's more of made in India, made for India, but serving the whole global segment. So that's happening because slowly we all are started getting US FDA, and specifically with the technology is becoming, or availability, access to technology becoming more easier. So even in small, say tribal area in Manipur have access to internet. So more connected devices, more remote monitoring, remote consultation, as well as the remote uses of these devices. So a physician sitting in Bangalore in Narayana Hridayalaya, titrating ventilator parameters of somebody in tribal hospital in Manipur. It would be actually a reality within next 5 years. So decentralization of healthcare is something which is already started, and COVID has given it a boost, and that would that would keep on happening in next 5 to 6 years. Only really critical patients would go to hospitals. Most patients technology would be at a place where we would be able to treat them at home and at the small centers only. No need to go to big hospitals all the time.
So one thing to you personally, Nitesh, you've been an entrepreneur and you're trekking all across India, trying to make this happen, etc. In your journey, in your personal entrepreneurial journey right now, do you find it more challenging or do you find it more exciting? Of course, everyone has to work hard to make things happen. Do you feel the ratio of effort to result, is it acceptable right now, or is there a lot of effort going on and you wish things could ease out a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's always a wish that with less effort you get more work done. But then practically now I'm seeing it's improving. So the less because again people know us, people are using our products. When they know our last 5 years journey, we have mentors and people like you helping us in that segment. When we need access, we are getting that access. So in that way, things have actually eased out. I would say from last 2 years when we started commercializing these devices to now, things are I think easy in multi-fold, and COVID has again accelerated that, because when we don't have access to all these international devices, dependence on Indian products has increased, and that has made us orders coming to us directly. So that effort also has reduced a lot. The only issue I had again that you know that it's basically being, and I don't know entrepreneur or not, but being involved a lot with your solution, with your work. I didn't care, and especially being in healthcare, I didn't care about my health at all. So I ended up into really stress-induced diabetes. My sugar level was some close to 520, and some really I was in really bad shape, not knowing I was in really bad shape. Because a doctor He looked at my face, looked at my parameters, and I was that time in emergency room for work. So he just looked at me and like, dude, I'll get you tested. And he just got me tested and found out. So be there, he just got all the insulin injection, punch inside. So I think that's one thing I wish I can reverse it. That I could have taken not just work, but also my personal health seriously.
Nitesh, really thank you. And I want to say, as we wrap up today, is that I think what you said in the closing note is very important. And for each of us out there, taking care of our personal health, personal well-being, our mental well-being, physical well-being is as important as taking care of the well-being of the company, well-being of the organizations we serve, etc. Especially in these times in the post-COVID era, we have all understood how vulnerable we really are to things. So the more we support each other, the more we are there for each other, but more importantly, the more we are there for each of us ourselves, we can really serve everyone better. And part of being there for ourselves is continuously learning, continuously keeping ourselves engaged in conversations, continuously innovating in our own minds and with people around us. So with that, I want to say that I know it's been difficult with the connection and all that, and you are traveling to all parts of India, trying to see how we can get these machines out there. And I really want to congratulate you on that work. And I would wrap up by saying that let's all look at innovations that are happening around us and support them to the best of our abilities. And we are truly proud, Nitesh, of all the work you're doing, and we wish you luck. And big thanks to AMTZ for hosting this and for showing up. I mean, everybody's back to work, everybody's coming to these events and having such interesting, engaging conversations on a regular basis. So thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you again in a month.
Yeah, thank you, Lakshmi. So